questions? Under the current account, we have something called balance of trade. Balance of trade is also known as familiar friend, X minus M. We saw this last week. Remember, I's peak. This is peak, the factors that affect net exports. Okay, can? K for capital. Malaysia cars is what? Cars, is it? But we don't use CFA because C you put under current account already. Okay. Right. So you have your balance of trade, aka X minus M. In the notes, you will further see that they split this into visibles and invisibles. Then some people are thinking, wow, what are we talking about? Ghost. Okay, no. Invisibles just means services. Visibles means goods. And we always say goods and services. You can see how detailed they are when the WTO tracks these things. Okay, but don't worry about this. Okay. Under the current account, there's another thing. All right, it's called income flows. You see, I said this is like a hotel logbook, guest book. You're tracking everything that comes in and goes out. Okay. So income can also flow between countries, like what? If I have a house in Australia, I rent out the house, I collect rental. The rental flows back to me in Singapore. That's rental income. Okay? Not a good time to have a house there now. Okay, but wow, you should have seen the devastation. Very bad. Oh, the wildlife. Okay. Horrible. Okay, so rental income is one. You know, Marina Bay Sands was not built by a Singaporean. It's built by a foreigner, like American. Okay, his name is Sheldon Adelson. He builds this thing here. He makes money. The money goes back to him, so it flows back as profits. Okay. So you have rental income, you have profits. If you lend people money, you may even get interest income. Okay. So clearly, income flows across countries. The last one is called transfers. Okay. In econs, whenever we say transfers, we are talking about payment where no productive activity is generated in return. Okay. So we have some examples of transfer payments in microecons. Pocket money is a transfer payment. You get pocket money, you don't do anything productive, right? You can't say, I'm filling my stomach and that's productive. Okay, productive is for the person who paid you. Inheritance is not productive. Can you do anything productive for the person who's deceased? Cannot. Inheritance, pocket money, scholarships. Scholarship is a transfer payment. I know some of you will say, no, if I get this scholarship, I work for them for 6 years. You know, when you work for them, you get paid. Your salary is for the productive activity. The scholarship is just a promise to work for them. A promise that we shouldn't break. Okay? Don't break one. Alright? So transfer payments. But if you are looking at a country and other countries, we don't have things like pocket money, right? Don't have. So we are looking at things like foreign aid. I know we are acting very innocent here. We pretend foreign aid, you don't expect anything in return. Okay? No productive activity is generated in return. Alright? Transfer payments. That is your current account. Okay? Question is, why do we call it the current account? No one can answer that. But I can try to give you some intuition. Okay? Current means immediate. The things here are rather immediate. Alright? When I sell you something under X minus M, I get the payment, right? But under the capital and financial account, these things are not so immediate. They relate to investment flows. Investment flows. Some people say investing is like watching the paint dry on the wall. It takes time. Some people say, no, investing is like watching the grass grow taller. in any case, it takes time. You don't say, I'm going to invest this money, hey, next minute you pass it back to me. No such thing. Okay? But even within investments, we have short term, we have long term. Okay? This is where some notes become rather detailed, and then the details lose us. Okay? But let me just share with you broadly what we can agree on is that long-term investments, there are two kinds. You can invest in physical stuff, physical assets. Do you all know what's an asset? An asset is something that is of value to us. A house is an asset. Why? You can rent out the house. A car is a liability, right? But now that we have Grab and all, maybe a car can become an asset. Children, some people say asset, some say liability. That one depends, okay? But asset is something that's of value. Okay? Physical asset, like you can build a hotel, and we call that direct investments. Okay? You can also invest in things that are not physical, financial assets. Like for me, I put some money in Chinese bonds, okay? So I buy these bonds that track the performance of Chinese banks. But I can't say, oh, I walk down to maybe a Chinese construction bank and say, hey, I own this pillar. Cannot. These are financial assets, okay? When I invest in financial assets like stocks, another name for stocks is equities. Another name for equities is shares, okay? If you see all these things, they mean the same thing. Or bonds. No need to be too troubled, okay, by all these things, okay? So when I invest in the Chinese bonds, what do I get? I don't get a brick in return to say, hey, I own this part of the bank. I get a piece of paper, just a piece of paper. So when I invest in many of them, I get many pieces of paper, right? I'm afraid of losing the paper, so what do? I file them away in a portfolio. So these are called portfolio investments. Portfolio investments. Okay. These are rather long-term. Okay. And if you're interested, you will have to be interested. This is called FDI. Foreign direct investments. I think you have heard of FDI before. Every country likes FDI. Why? You create jobs. Right? Portfolio investments may not create jobs, but FDI creates jobs. Okay? So in Singapore's early days, we attracted foreign investors to build textile factories, flatted factories in Jurong. Then recently, not too long ago, electronics. So we have Siemens, you have Panasonic. Then we move on to pharmaceuticals, okay, biopolice, right? And now more of the robotics and more high-end ones. There are also short-term investments. You can think of them as speculative flows of money. It's a bit like physical geog. You have air currents, okay? I don't know what you call it, air bodies. Air currents that move around very rapidly, creating climatic conditions, right? In the economy, you also have this huge sums of money, billions of dollars swirling around. Where do they go? They gravitate to places, for example, with higher interest, in search of higher interest. So today, if a New Zealand bank offers 7%, oh, the money will flow in, right? Tomorrow, if another bank offers 7.1%, wow, this money will flow out. Very short term. They are not rooted. They don't take the form of a building, which is very hard to extract. Okay. Ken? Yes. Okay, short term usually is not just one investor. It's an investor who's presumably quite good at managing money, and this investor gets other people on board. So in this world, they form these things called hedge funds. Okay. So you have a fund manager who looks at good areas to invest and then takes the money and invests for you. It's like financial advisor, but many rungs up the ladder. Okay? Portfolio investors or fund managers. Some of them manage billions of money. That's why you see them moving in a concerted way. Okay? Okay. So this is a short introduction to your balance of payments. They are not current because they are investments though, so they take a little bit of time. That's not the legit explanation, it's just my easy way of remembering it. Okay. And this part, when money comes in, it's called credit. When does money come in? For example, when you sell exports. Okay, so when Singapore sells, let's say, water back to Malaysia, we get earnings, that's a credit. Okay, money out, like I said, is a debit. For example, when we buy imports, okay, or like I said, when the money made by Marina Bay Sands is repatriated back to US. I mean, all these things could have two sides, but I don't think Singapore receives foreign aid. Okay, okay. In, out, overall, if it's a surplus, if it's a positive, it's a surplus. And it used, this one listen carefully, it used to be the case that in the KFA, money in, right? Money in used to be recognized as credit. But 2 years back, they changed it to debit. Why? Why is it that when money comes in this account, it's called a debit? Like say, it's just an accounting thing. The World Trade Organization wanted to reflect that, oh, let's say someone invests in Singapore and builds a hotel. That foreigner owns a little bit of Singapore now. That foreigner has ownership, has a stake in this part of Singapore. So it's like a debit from our perspective. Whereas when Singaporeans invest outside, we own a bit of other countries, it's seen as a credit. So this changed only 2 years back, right? But we still like money coming in, right? So overall, your balance of payment, it used to be current account plus KFA, but now it's current account minus KFA. So whatever is negative still becomes a positive in terms of how it contributes to your balance. Any questions?
What if the person who invests from?
Oh, so Singaporeans investing outside. If it's domestic, it wouldn't be recorded under balance of payment.
Oh.
Okay. So it's like you are staying in the hotel, then you're not really a guest. I mean, you're staying in the hotel, you're not, but you own the hotel maybe, right? Okay. So, if the whole thing is a positive, let's say it's $20 million, what happens to the surplus? But you can see why we like surpluses, right? You know now as we speak, there's a trade war going on between US and China. It's been toned down a little bit by something symbolic that was signed about 2 days back. But it's still ongoing. That trade war was because US finds that it has a very big deficit with China, which means China is selling a lot of things to US, they're not buying a lot from US. Then they blame China. I would have thought you should blame the pattern, the habit of consumerism in your country, right? Culture is different, but they blame China. Anything wrong? Blame China. Okay, so this is a surplus. What happens to that surplus? You squirrel it away into your savings. Okay, so the surplus goes into your reserves account. It's like the table had $20 million. Now they all go into the reserves account. You sweep them away into your reserves account. So reserves account will show minus 20. Then people say, why minus? I thought you're adding on. Now you look at the perspective of the table. That table had 20 million coughed out through your current account and capital financial account. The reserves account sweeps away that 20 million. So from the table's perspective, it's a minus. Are you okay? But of course, you're adding on to your reserves. That's why we always say, oh, BOP always balances, because you add this with your reserves account, it's always 0. Okay. On the contrary, if you run a deficit, minus 20, you have to pay for the deficit.